I'm a clown.
And now the news is good with Matthew Martin.
I'm Matthew Martin, and the news is good. Tonight, blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but we're going to talk about it. That's tonight. Yeah. A common question I get asked a lot has to do with blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. Now, before I get to the text spoken by Jesus, there is a precedent for it found in the Old Testament. It's in Numbers 14. The context is the children of Israel have left Egypt, gone to Sinai, received the law, been led by Moses to the edge of the Promised Land. They're camped at Kadesh Barnea, and they have sent scouts into the land to see how it looks. And they come back and they report good news and bad news. Good news is the land is overflowing with milk and honey. It has green grass and beautiful forests and lakes and streams. It's all wonderful. Bad news is there are great walled cities there. There are giants there. There are huge armies there, and we are going to be squashed like bugs if we go in there. Now at that, two of the scouts, Caleb and Joshua, say, hang on, none of those places or peoples are bigger than Egypt, and God handled them easily. God can handle whatever we find in Canaan. So let's go. We can do this. God can do this for us. But the people chose to buy into the pessimism and faithlessness of the other scouts, which led to God punishing the nation. Listen to Numbers 14, 22 and 23. Because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely they shall not see the land which I swore to their fathers, neither shall any of them enter in, who provoked me to see it. God vows that the people who saw his miracles and hardened their hearts will be denied entry to the promised land. If they want to say it's impossible, God will make it impossible for them. Those people saw God's mighty deeds and still rejected God. You know what that's called in the New Testament? Blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. Listen to Jesus, Matthew 12, 31 and 32. Wherefore I say to you, that all manner of sin and blasphemy shall be forgiven unto man, but the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit shall not be forgiven men. And whosoever speaks a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But whoever speaks against the Holy Spirit, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this world nor in the world to come. Why is it that Jesus says people who commit this sin cannot be forgiven? I don't believe it's because of a limitation on God's part, but rather a limitation on man's part. Look at the context of the statement a few verses earlier, 22 through 24. Then was brought to Jesus one possessed with the devil, blind and mute, and he healed him, insomuch that the blind and mute man now both spake and saw. And all the people were amazed and said, Is this not the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, This fellow does not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. These Pharisees saw Jesus work a miracle, and though they saw it with their own eyes, they chose to disregard what they saw and believe that Jesus was working for Satan rather than working for God. A person who sees a miracle and has such a heart that they would rather attribute the power of God to the working of the devil is a person with a heart so hard it cannot be softened. And what could be done to soften it? How do you get through to someone that even a miracle does not have a positive effect? A miracle is the ultimate ace in the hole, and they shrugged it off. My position on the subject is this. Any sin can be forgiven if it is repented of. But the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit is a sin that won't be repented of, because the heart of the sinner has hardened himself to the point that is beyond softening. That's a terrifying thought. That kind of person cannot and will not be forgiven because he doesn't want to be. He doesn't even know that he needs to be. Remember, though, that it's not a sin that can be done accidentally. You have to willingly and purposefully harden your heart against the miracles of God. You have to knowingly shut your heart off from having faith and trust in God. And if you do that, well, why would you even want to be saved? And if you did want to be saved, then your heart is soft and you will not commit the sin spoken of by Jesus. The sin once committed long ago by a generation of Israelites. They came out of Egypt, saw the power of God, and still said, no, we do not believe God can do it. That's the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. That's why those people were punished. That's why Jesus says those who commit that sin cannot be saved, because they'll never ask for it. It is Thursday, April 9th. And I am standing at what is effectively the end of the Vilonia Church of Christ. That's not a threat. I know, I said all this on Tuesday. But here's the thing. I sit down, or I stand, in this case, to do these daily prayers. And I record like 8 of them in bulk. 8 to 12 or so, all at once. And it's hard to come up with things to pray for, which you think, oh, that's a whole Devo right there. I got to remember that. It's hard to come up with things to pray for. That's the thing to pray about. I'll do that one later. But it's hard to come up with these sometimes. So I stood here, and then one came to me, this is the end of the Vilonia Church building, but there's a whole nother building we're going to build. And I spun that off to, I may never see it because I may be dead, and I need to be okay with that. But you could take that in a whole nother direction as well. I'm here at the end of the Vilonia Church building, but I've been promised that there's another building that is coming in the future, and I hope that it will be so. I have the hope in the word of the elders and the people who are making those decisions that there will come a day in 4, 5, 6 years when we'll build a new building, a bigger building, and everything will be all just peachy over there. And I have hope for that. And what that word hope doesn't mean is I cross my fingers, I put my hand behind my back and I cross my heart and hope to die. I cross my fingers and I hope, as if to say, I don't know, it may not ever happen, but I hope it does. It'd be swell if it did. That is not Bible hope. Bible hope is I have confidence in it. I have the belief that it will happen. I have the expectation that it would happen. And in this case, I do so because the people who have given me that word are honest people, are hardworking people, are people who I know are putting in the work to accomplish that thing. So I have hope in God. And if someone asks me, are you saved? And I say, I hope so. I hope, are you going to heaven, or are you going to die and live with Jesus in eternal bliss? And I say, I hope so. That doesn't mean it sure would be nice, but probably not. Or it sure would be nice, but I have no idea. Because I do know, I have blessed assurance. I am going to live with God forevermore. And that's not arrogance or conceit or a failure to acknowledge my own failings as a human being and the possibility of me, falling short. But I believe that Jesus saved me. And so in that sense, why wouldn't I hope? Why wouldn't I have belief plus expectation that Jesus is a promise keeper? That if he said it, he'll do it. And if he promised it, he'll fulfill it. So, yeah, my prayer for all of us is that you hope for salvation. And that doesn't mean you don't expect it or you don't believe it. On the contrary, it means you believe it and expect it. And the Bible calls that hope. So that's my prayer for all of us. Let's all hope that we're going to live with God forevermore. Because God has promised that we would. So why wouldn't we hope it?